Reagan, and today I'm here to bring you my September wrap-up, and this video is being sponsored in part by Sourcebooks and Penguin Random House. For the month of September, I read 4 books, which at first sounds like pretty average, but the books I read this month were really long, so I like to consider it above average. Because honestly, life is stressful and I could use all these self-compliments I can get. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. The first book I completed this month is a hunker, and that is The Broken Eye by Brent Weeks. I mean, seriously, like, look how long this book is. The book was long, but the book was amazing, and I'm so glad I was able to finish this month. This is the 3rd book to the Lightbringer series, and oh my gosh, this world in every book just keeps expanding and getting more complex. The characters keep getting like new size and perspectives that you're just like, whoa! I'm just such a huge fan of the series, as many of you guys know, as I haven't shut up about it seemingly in probably 4 months now because I've just been reading it. And the next book comes out next month, so I'm sure you can kind of understand where my TBR might be going. But again, this is a fantastic high fantasy series centering around light magic, and basically it's awesome. So if you haven't read it or picked it up, do it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Are we surprised? I'm not. Next, I read one of my most highly anticipated books of the year, and that is Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I have a full review and spoiler discussion of this book down below. If you're interested, I reviewed it, so I'm going to be brief on this. But this is the 5th book to the Throne of Glass series. I love this series, and I did really like this book, but as I discuss in my discussion video, there are some issues with this story overall in terms of construction that were kind of glaring, that I'd talk more in depth about. But I have to say, I liked the story a lot. I loved all the side characters. There was some moments of shipping and romance that may be cliche, I will always die for when Sarah J. Maas just has an ability to write like side character romances and main character romances. But let's be real, all my favorite romances in her book series are always side character ones. I live for. But overall, I really did enjoy this book. I will finish it, of course. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Again, if you want more in-depth details, check out the video below. But it was good. The cover's beautiful. Beautiful. Next up, I read the Proustopia Book Club Pick of the Month for the month of September, and that is Furthermore by Head of Muffy. This is just a beautiful middle grade debut for Miss Head of Muffy. This follows our main character Alice, who lives in a colorful, magical world called Farronwood. However, she stands out in her town because while everything around her is colorful, she has no color at all. So she stands out, she's bullied, and she's just seeking an adventure for her life to become better. However, some events happen where she has to team up with a boy whom she despises to go on a journey and furthermore to save her father. This story I just loved. It was whimsical and just so delightful. It had every aspect of a middle grade story that I just really enjoy. I thought the humor was there. The main character was so adventurous, a little too rash, which is great because she's not perfect, but just hilarious to read from. I just really enjoyed her as our main character. She was just so funny and like ridiculous. I appreciated Head of Muffy's imagination and creativity in crafting these worlds. They were so interesting to just stumble upon. You're like, wow, that's wild. My only criticism for this book, and the reason why I gave it 4 stars, is because I felt like the ending was a little too abrupt and a little too easy. I honestly wish there was just a little more time in conflict resolution, but you know, not everything's perfect. I'm super excited to read the next book in this series, as it definitely feels like there's going to be another one, unless I'm really reading this wrong. But I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. It was just a delightful piece of a book. Like, it was just honestly just a pure and utter delight. And the last book I read this month was Labyrinth Lost by Zorita Cordova, and this book was just such a delight for a lot of different reasons. First off, this is probably one of the most diverse books I've read this year in terms of representation. This novel was written by a woman of Ecuadorian background, and she took a lot of inspiration from her Latin American upbringing and just heritage to inspire the fantastical elements of this book, which I thought was so cool. It follows our main character Alex, who basically is a bruja? Which basically means she's a witch, and her whole family comes from a line of witches, and basically on her death day she kind of gets her powers. However, she doesn't want her powers. She wants to be normal, she wants to live her life, so she does a spell that's supposed to basically take away her powers, but the spell backfires and she accidentally sends her whole family to Las Lobas, which is a labyrinth kind of in the underworld where she has to go and save them. Again, this story was heavily inspired by Latin American heritage and culture, which was just so interesting because I've never read any type of folklore from that region, so everything in this book was super new to me because a lot of fantasies normally that I read anyway, especially, is normally inspired by Western European history. Game of Thrones is a great, Name of the Wind are all great examples of that. So to read something that's inspired by another region of the world was so fascinating. I just really, really liked it. I found it to be such a unique and fresh story, and I'm so happy it was written, just in general. Also, literally every character in this book was a person of color, which I don't think I've ever ran into before, which was just great. And also, there was diversity and sexuality, which is just like awesome. Like, I don't know. This book is just great for just what it's doing, and also the story is also great. You know, it's hard to describe it. It's just such a delight to come across a book like this just because it's doing so much purely by existing, but then also it's a great story too, if that makes sense. Overall, I thought this story was fascinating, as I mentioned before. I really, really loved the story and the fantasy and the culture. I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it could have benefited a little more from a little more world building. And this might be coming from a place of, I just really like when people dive really deeply into fantasy worlds, and this was one I've just never encountered before, so I literally wanted more, and sometimes I thought it could be a little info dumping. And also I thought the ending wrapped up a little too nicely, but I'm excited for the next book in the series because I just feel like this has a lot of potential to be a great fantasy story. I really love the characters, I really love the world, I'm excited for more. Alrighty guys, those are all the books I read in the month of September. Let me know down below some books you read this month that you really enjoyed, as I would love to know, and I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!